Hey everybody, this is Geronimo from the Beyond Taboo podcast, and I'm here joined by Erin, our usual guest and friend. How are you doing, Erin?
I'm doing great, Geronimo. How are you? And how is our
Everything well.
audience?
How are you doing, guys? Now, everything well, Erin. Well, guys, we're joined here by Erin to talk about a very interesting topic. I must say, when you first proposed this subject to me, Erin, I thought, oh wow, I didn't know that. We definitely need to talk about this. So, like you guys probably imagined by the title of this episode. Today we'll be talking about, well, what it takes to be a sexologist. Because, well, it's not like you can do any online course to be able to help someone's that having some issues or some concerns about their sexuality, right, Erin? I mean, this is something you need to study and study a lot, probably.
Absolutely. Um, it's a lot of what we do is fun. And some of the things that we do aren't so fun, like doing all the research and those types of things. Nobody thinks that's fun when you're being educated. But this is actually a field where we have fun doing it. The
Hmm.
whole residency part to the training, it's a lot of fun. We get to
Oh.
attend interesting things, interesting
Hmm.
workshops, and be immersed in all of the sexuality stuff. And so it is
Hmm.
absolutely fun.
Okay. Now I can think of so many questions to ask you, but let me start with these two questions. I think the first one we probably talked about this in the past, but just for the audience to know, I'd love you to share a little bit about the precise moment when you decided to, well, study sexology. Like, was there any sort of experience that sort of gave you the clue, or like that precise moment? What was going on with Erin?
The first time I considered it, I had a couple who was now I know what they were experiencing. It was
Oh,
some issues with consensual non-monogamy, or what people believe is swinging. And I
okay.
didn't really have any information about it. I thought what everybody else thinks. They think that all of that is swinging, and it isn't. And so I said, oh, okay, well, I need to educate myself about this just so I can work with the couple. And then it
Mm.
just opened up this huge umbrella of sexuality stuff. And so I was very intrigued. And so just went from there
Mm.
and did several years of training.
Well, I hope this couple didn't have to wait so all those years to talk about that, you
No, they didn't. They
know.
were very patient with me. And then what was interesting, they weren't finding a lot of people, a lot of professionals to talk to about it. But at
Hmm.
least I was interested in learning with them and listening to what they had to say. They didn't feel judged or anything like that. So they're doing fantastic. And I'm glad that I did that. I pursued doing things to work with couples and then the sexuality, because sex is a part of your relationship.
For sure. And I guess, Erin, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't know how it is over there, but well, you talked about judgment. Do you feel these topics are somehow a little bit, well, sorry for the redundancy, but judge within like psychology circles, like some professionals, like I don't know, probably I can imagine a psychologist hearing the word swinging and, oh, okay, I don't know, you have that, or I don't know, you have this issue, like something like that. But maybe I'm misjudging.
I think you're accurate,
Oh.
because people who are in the mental health profession, if they don't have any additional training, then they do tend to be judgmental.
Hmm.
And they don't understand that it comes across that way when they're
Hmm.
being that judgmental. And then they bring morals into it. what's right and what's wrong. And I think that can be a problem if you don't have the additional training
Tools. Hmm.
and you can't see things from people's perspective.
Hmm. Well, that's important. That's interesting. Well, I guess. Well, I was wondering, Erin, I'm sure you had to learn a lot, not just to help that couple, but I mean, all your patients. So, when you were first taking that step initially, like what was your first impression when I don't know you stumbled upon for the first time with the syllabus of your training with how much time you spent actually studying for or to be a sexologist. I mean, how tell me a little bit about the training. I'd love to hear about it.
Okay. So it takes a few years because it's not just the book knowledge, it's also like an internship or residency that you have to do. So
Okay.
it's pretty intensive. But the baseline things that any of us would have to have, it's, ethics and things from a sociocultural perspective, like religion or ethnicity, all of those things can impact your worldview with regards to sexuality.
Oh,
And
for sure.
then sexual orientation and gender, the intimacy things that are involved in relationships, libido, diverse lifestyles like the kink and you brought up swinging. Um, Medical issues and reproductive issues and STIs. We also learn about range of functioning, like if one person has a lower libido or a higher libido than the other. Okay, things like that. We learn about that. We learn how to address sexual pain because sometimes that happens with women, pain during sex, and so
Oh
we
yeah,
learn
I've
how
heard
to
about
address
that.
that. And then,
I
of
feel.
course,
Oh, sorry for the interruption, but you just brought that topic, and I find it very interesting. Because I feel like it's not uh, covered enough somehow. There's a great brand. Sorry for this sort of uh, introduction of a different topic, but there's a very good brand. I think they changed the name and now they're called the Pelvic People, but they used to be called Honored, and it's like a device to like create a distance between the pelvis and the vagina. It's like some rings you stack to not penetrate with your full length somehow. But yeah, a very important issue because, well, usually, sorry to expand on this thing, but I don't know, I feel like most men, when they are big, well, they don't consider the weight of that responsibility, if you know what I mean.
yes. Yes. And that's even brought up in the Kama Sutra, by the way.
Oh, really?
Um, oh, absolutely. People think the Kama Sutra is just a bunch of sex positions, but actually those sex positions are designed for certain things. Like if the guy has a bigger penis and then the woman has a smaller vulva, like there are certain positions for that. And so, we learn things like that, like positioning. And that goes along like with pleasure enhancement. So you're bringing up a great topic. And then the use of toys. We have training on the use of toys and what toys are for what and what lubes are for what. And then, like I said, the sexual positions. So we learn about all of this. And in fact, I used to teach a Kama Sutra class.
Oh, that's fantastic.
It was a lot of fun, but I taught it in a very realistic way because no one is
How's
going
that?
to be a gymnast in the bedroom. And then the pictures that you see in the Kama Sutra, people aren't going to usually be able to do those things. And so I made it more realistic and then use furniture, to enhance and, create
Aid.
certain positioning. And yes, yes. And so it made it very realistic for people, and it didn't make any difference what your weight or size or anything like that. And so, yeah, those are things that we would learn to
That's
help
fantastic.
people.
I imagine your classes weren't boring at all. Like I can imagine you and your classmates hearing this for the first time, and I'm sure there were a lot of laughs or even awkwardness maybe at first when you're first hearing about these topics and being taught. I don't know about this whole world. Like how it's how is it like actually sharing this journey with your other classmates, you know?
We're a fun bunch. We had to watch a lot of porn, and then we had to talk about it. We had to go to
Sounds
swingers
like
clubs.
torture.
It it was a lot of fun. It was it was kind of interesting.
That's the kind of homework I'd like to get, you know?
We liked it. We really liked it. And then to visualize and say, okay, I would have never thought this professional over here was into that stuff. So,
Hmm.
we have our feelings about that, but it's funny. It's funny
But
because
uh, what's the purpose? I mean, obviously, for sure, educate yourself. I can imagine. I mean, what's the purpose or what's like the format of those assignments, you know, like watching porn? Like, okay guys, we need to talk about, I don't know, like anal, so I want you everybody for the next class to watch 4 hours of anal
Anal
porn.
porn.
So
So how does it work, you know?
no, not like that at all. Um, if we attend something like a sexual um, it's called a SAR, okay? And
okay.
in our profession, that's what it's called, a sexual let me see what the wording, because I don't want to name any agencies. It's a sexual attitude reassessment. And so what we do in that, like it's usually about 16 hours and it can be more. And it's about allowing us to express our values, our feelings, our opinions about things that are pretty intensive in the under the sexual umbrella. Like, for
Okay.
example, um, if they say that we're going to be watching porn, it might be some
Oh.
extreme types of pornography, and
Oh
then they
wow.
want to have us talk about what we felt when we saw it and what
Wow.
our biases may have been when we were watching that. Or like if we go to a dungeon or a swingers club, like we get to not be clinical about it. We get to talk about, were we feeling judgmental?
Huh.
What are our values? What are our attitudes about this? And so I think
Wow.
that's super important to turn off well, I'm a professional,
The
like turn off that.
prejudices. Hmm.
Yes, yes. And so it makes it easier for us to relate to a client.
Well, that's amazing. I
Yes.
would love to know like how was like your first experience watching porn as an assignment? Like, were there any like porn genre that shocked you a bit? Like, tell me a little bit about that experience. I'd love to hear it.
Well, there was some porn that it was a struggle. Like I know that people are into um, animals and
Oh.
um yes. And I had to get past the that's illegal and just say, okay, this is what this person is into. Or certain types of pornography, like
But
How sorry, how I mean, how was it possible for the institution to share that sort of porn? I mean, I'm not sure, but I think it's illegal, right? Or was it like with 3D animation or people using costumes?
it's it was available on porn. Like some of that was available.
wow.
Um, yes, I don't think it is as much anymore, but at the time that I got my training,
Okay.
it was obviously available. And so they wanted to know what our reactions to that would be. And it was a struggle. That was one of them. I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if I can keep watching this." And it was hard to get
Oof.
out of my head with that.
Oof.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure. Oh wow, that's that's a lot. Yeah, I can imagine. I
Yes.
mean,
And
you
other
won't be able.
fetishes.
Hmm.
And we have to get past the just because someone has a fetish, that doesn't mean it's illegal. It doesn't mean that they should be judged for it. It doesn't even mean that they're acting on a fetish. And so we had to understand the differences with that too. You
Well,
know,
it's sorry.
somebody may
Yeah.
be into necrophilia, but
Oh
we have
wow.
to think like, okay, what is that about? Help me to understand it. And we also have to think about, well, sometimes necrophilia is illegal depending on where you are. So lots of those things. It was pretty intense.
Wow. You really sort of explored like the most extreme borders of well, or of the possibilities of this sexual desire. Like,
Yes.
it's amazing, you know. But some of this stuff, I mean, it's all relative, I guess, and some things may sound shocking or look shocking because we're educated in different cultural backgrounds or systems, and well, some of those, what we now or today call fetishes, were actually the norm in other contexts. Like, I mean, for example, sophia, I mean, that's something that happens a lot, like in the countryside, like in rural backgrounds. You know, my father's side of the family lives in a very rural or countryside spot, and they once told me an anecdote where there was someone that took care of the horses, and well, like they stumbled upon a very intense scene, you know, and there were tourists, you know, because my father sort of has like this tourist complex, and well, those tourists got themselves a very intense souvenir. But it
I bet.
happens. It happens. I mean, well, when you're all alone, I guess things start to look more attractive. So,
Right. I'm trying to not visualize.
anyways, jumping to another topic, Erin, you mentioned you had to go with your classmates to a swinging club. How was that experience? Tell me, like,
It
I would.
was it was very unique because even though I had a client who was involved in the what we call alternative lifestyles, I had actually never been to one. And I found it fascinating, like how open people were, how respectful people were. They respected boundaries. Like there weren't people just grabbing each other. They have rules in those
hmm,
places because
hmm,
they're very protective and they like to maintain confidentiality. Like you can't walk around with your phones and be
hmm,
posting things. They don't allow that. So it
That's
was
great.
actually a wonderful experience. All the times that I've attended, wonderful experiences, great people. You get to watch people have sex. They have rules about that too. You can only go in the back if you're with a partner. You have
Oh,
to,
okay.
take your
You
partner
can
if
be
you're
by
watching.
yourself. Okay.
Right, right. And then you can be in there and participate
hmm.
in certain ways. And then you have an audience that's watching the participation.
Oh
Um,
wow. Like with
yeah,
popcorn and all.
absolutely. Yeah, have your wine and yeah, you're back there
Wow.
watching and they're performing and it's
Seriously?
fascinating. Yes,
Wow.
yes,
That's
yes,
actually interesting.
yes, it is. And then there
Like
are
there's
people,
a
Sorry,
sorry,
like
like
there's
there's
a
a line,
line, you know, like, okay, who's next? Whose turn is next? Like, you get to, like, suddenly the scenario is available, and
how is it?
who's next? It's the one that I've attended, like it was a huge area where there were beds, and then a couple or two would just go in there and they would have, a bed and do their stuff, and then the rest of us were out there watching, and it was like
And
having
taking
your own
notes,
porn.
obviously.
Probably, yeah. Well, if it's an assignment, then of course I'm taking notes. But and I'm watching other people. I'm seeing what their reactions are, like to see, oh, well, this is a new couple, and that's why they're reacting to this. And so that was fascinating to
Mm.
me to see how people behaved. It's very,
Wow.
very clean, like they have people in there to keep things very sterilized and clean.
Mm.
So it's not like some nasty orgy or anything like that. We got to attend dungeons where we got to see shibari. We got
Mm.
the Japanese roping. We got
Mm.
to see how, people getting paddled or whipped, those types of things. And so it was fascinating to see that, how that transpired and the consent that's involved and the care that's given. So it was absolutely fascinating. And we're graded on the things that we do sexually. Like we have to be proficient in different sexual areas. And so if we have a
And
partner, the
who
partner's
grades
gonna,
you?
well, our partners do.
Oh, all right. Like your
Yeah.
actual partners or like your classmates?
Yes. No, not classmates. Our
Okay.
partners grade us, and then we give the assessment to our group. Um,
Wow.
One of my colleagues, who her husband is a doctor, she was going through the program, and her husband gave her an F on fellatio. And she was
No.
heartbroken and
Oh,
said, "You're
wow.
ruining my GPA. I can't get an F." And he said, "Well, do better and I'll give you a better grade."
Wow, like you suddenly gave all the power to your partner, like
She got an A. She eventually got her A. So
oh wow. So she really trained for it. That's great.
absolutely. And then if you happen to be bisexual, you get graded on a lot of stuff. So and if you have fetishes, like you get graded on things and you get to present that.
Oh, wow.
So
That's incredible. I'm actually very surprised that there's uh, like this sort of requirement of proficiency. I mean, it's actually smart the way they do it,
mhm.
and definitely fun if you are in a relationship while studying
Yeah.
sexology. But yeah, I mean, it's like if you were trying to study to be, I don't know, like to be a personal trainer, and well, there's that whole debate, like you need to be fit to train people. So I guess it's somehow like that. Interesting.
I'm
Yes.
amazed.
One time I was actually teaching the Kama Sutra class, and one of the participants just blurted out, "Well, what do you do for a G-spot orgasm?" And so I started speaking very clinically, like, "This is what you do, these are the positions." And she said, "No, I meant, what do you do for a G-spot orgasm?" And so that caught me off guard because she wanted for me to be a person. She didn't
Mm.
want for me to be an educator or anything like that. She wanted me to be real with her. And that
Mm.
was one of the first times that it dawned on me that I can't be superficial with this.
Mm.
I have to have the experiences if I'm going to talk to people about it.
Wow. Well, that's incredible.
Yeah, being called out.
No,
It
I
didn't feel
mean,
good at the moment, but when I look back at that, that's one of the best things that ever happened, to have a client tell me to be specific and personal with, like a position or a type of lubricant or anything like that. And so now I don't have any, shame about, hey, this works and this is
restraints
what you
or
use it for.
whatsoever. Mhm.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that's incredible. I mean, it's definitely a field that obliges you or pushes you to, like, I don't know, be very strong somehow. Like I don't know, like really get to know yourself and what you like and what you don't, and the vast possibilities of your body and pleasure. Like, it's like, I don't know, yeah, getting to know yourself in a very deep and extensive way. So, well, it's fascinating. And Erin, I was thinking when you were mentioning about, well, these um, swinging clubs and the dungeons, like, what were like the most challenging experiences you got as assignments?
Besides animal porn, that was one of them. Um, Sometimes the impact play was a struggle because it looked like the person was in pain, like it looked like they had injuries. And so before I had more education about it, it was very challenging for me to see someone, you know, tied up and being hit with something and then seeing that, the skin was red and all of that. It was hard to get out of my medical head versus this is a pleasurable thing for this couple. And they there's consent involved. It's not what we usually think, and so that was a little challenging at first. What else was challenging? Um, I won't say this was challenging. This was just a surprise when I went
Okay.
to a swingers club that these couples weren't in the back having sex. Like there were two couples, and I'm going to try to be as descriptive as possible so you can try to visualize what was happening.
Okay.
It looked almost like an orgy. So you had legs up and one person going down on the other and somebody behind the other. And I just blurted out like, "Oh my God, I love her shoes," because her feet were up in the air. I don't know if that was nervousness or shock by me saying that. I was like, "Oh my God, those are some fantastic shoes." So and that the all four of them, they were sitting near me. And then there were other people just walking by like none of that was happening. And then the rest of us, we were like, oh my God, like this is real. So that things like that happen. And
Wow.
then you just get to,
I'm a little bit curious about the dynamics on those sort of clubs. Like, I mean, what happens? I'm sure that the answer might be obvious to you, but well, if we contrast this dynamic with how things work today with, well, dating apps and swiping and else, like, okay, how do you sort of manage a situation where when you're not into a couple, like, are there any rules or protocols to politely say, I don't know, like, sorry,
like
but no.
trying to get into the lifestyle.
Oh, no, no. Like, for example, imagine, for example, you go with your partner to a swinging club, and maybe a couple approaches you, and I don't know, maybe you're not into them. So I guess it's a bit tricky to say no without being rude, or I don't know if I'm being clear enough.
Yes, you are. Uh, because people who are involved, who attend those usually, they understand that you're not going to be into everybody.
Hmm.
Okay. You can even meet people and become friends with them and meet people and end up going to house parties. So it's not what people think. It's not like you go to the swingers club and you go home with a couple. That
Okay.
rarely happens.
Oh wow.
Like usually they're trying to make sure there's safety involved and that you click with the other party. One time when I went, this is how the approach was. Usually it works best if the women do the initiating, with a couple or
Hmm.
with another woman or with a guy. It usually works better.
And why do you think it happens?
Um, it's because women don't feel like they have power anyway, and this is one area where they can have more say so. and it just works better. You know, if there's chemistry, if the woman believes there's chemistry, then the sex is probably going to be better.
Hmm.
Guys can
Interesting.
just have sex regardless. Like, you know, y'all are like microwaves. You just hit a button and it's like it just happens. Women are like ovens.
That's a great analogy, actually.
I tell people that all the time. You know, like you got to let the woman run the oven, warm things up, check things out, and the guy
Hmm.
can just show up and he's the microwave.
Hmm. That's true. Hmm.
Yes. Yes. So
Makes sense.
it's you don't it's not like what, you know, people think and you're just going home with random people. A lot of times there are memberships that you where you can
Oh,
connect with people out, you know, outside of there, and so it's a community. It's a very it's a community.
distinctive way of living, I'm
Yes.
sure. Hmm.
Yes. And you tend to be around people who are open to that. And even if you're not swinging with them or playing with them, you're around people who aren't going to judge you because they're part of the community and they
Hmm.
keep you safe.
And I guess that's like the way to approach the experience. I guess it's not something like I guess you could start like in your own circle of friends. You know, like I'm sure that could definitely complicate things.
It could.
Uh, so yeah. Well, that's yeah. Sorry to ask so much questions about swinging. I got curious.
That's perfectly okay. We can do a whole bunch of episodes talking about swinging because that is actually where I got a lot of my um, additional training with the consensual non-monogamy, that umbrella of um, sexuality, and then also the kink. So those were my choices to do the alternative lifestyles to get lots of training in that
Oh,
area.
really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Male sexual health, the consensual non-monogamy, the kink, and then like sexual pleasure, like having more um, information about that, you know, the use of toys, specific toys for specific things, like for clitoral stimulation or G-spot
Hmm.
access, and then what type you use for anal sex. And then there are certain ones that women would use and then men would use because your bodies are different. Your bodies are the anatomy is different. And so
Hmm.
having that, we have to know that too. Lots of anatomy and physiology, but it's not the same as when you go to a doctor's office where they just, you know, this is connected to this and this is how this works. We
Hmm.
understand all of it, like the pleasure part of it, because you're not going to get that in a doctor's office.
No, for sure not. Yeah,
Like a
definitely.
doctor's not going to talk to a patient about her clitoris because the
Hmm.
clitoris has no use except pleasure.
Hmm. Hmm. True.
I learned that too.
That's true. Hmm.
Hmm.
And looking back as a retrospective exercise, how did it go to that couple?
You first wanted to help.
When you finally got yourself the tools to be able to help them out.
I did some reading. There's lots of books out there. And their issue, it ended up being that they needed to make adjustments with their agreement. Because when you're in the lifestyle, you should have a written agreement of what's going to happen, what your boundaries are, and all of that. And all they really needed to do was have a professional there so they could tweak the things that they already had on their agreement.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so it ended up being pretty easy, but I didn't think it was at first. I was thinking, "Oh my God, what am I getting myself into?" Um, but it was so intriguing. And then to learn from them, like they had been in the lifestyle not very long, maybe a couple of years. And so it made sense to me later on why they would come to a professional to tweak what they had on their agreement, you know,
Hmm.
to find out what's in the container of their relationship and all of that. So it was fun. It was a lot. We all had a lot of fun with that.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And they were
I
patient with me, very patient, and they were grateful that I was willing to learn.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Hmm.
That's great, actually.
Do you remember like I mean, after finally getting your degree and finishing your studies, like, uh, I'm sure you were like all excited to, well, receive these different sort of consultations suddenly. So, like, do you remember like any of those first successful experiences as a new sexologist?
Yes. Most of the referrals that I got at first were about um, the range of sexual functioning, like if one person's libido didn't match the other. Those were very fascinating cases because there could be a
Oh,
number
really?
of reasons that that happens.
Hmm.
And so to work
That's a
with the
very common
couple,
problem, right?
absolutely. And there could be, it could be maybe one person has pain, maybe one person has had trauma or, um,
A long day.
or taking a medication, or maybe the person's been stressed and so they're not feeling as sexual as the other person.
Hmm.
So it was a different range, a lot of different ranges of functioning, and interesting to hear each couple's issue.
Hmm. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, fantastic. And Erin, when you first mentioned, you mentioned some minutes ago books, and I think this could be a great closure question. I mean, you had to study a lot to become a sexologist. Now you guys know what you need to study and to know to actually be able to help people with their own sexuality. So I'm curious about like the best pieces of knowledge. Either those are in the format of books, courses. What were like the most important pieces of knowledge you stumbled upon? Either books or courses or whatever. Like if you were, if you could recommend those to someone.
Okay. Some of the books, I can name some of the books. Like for general sex education, I really liked the one called Guide to Getting It On, Unzipped. That one had a very I like the title of it.
Yeah,
It
me
has a
too.
very global approach to sex education, and it covers everything. And so I really liked it. There were several for female sexuality. One of them is called Slow Sex, the Art and Craft of the Female Orgasm.
Hmm.
And then Come As You Are, the surprising new science that will transform your sex life. Girl Boner, that's about sexual empowerment.
Very creative titles, I must say.
Yes, yes. And one of the couples sex positions, the Modern Kama Sutra, that's a
Hmm.
really good one. And then for male sexuality, male multiple orgasm and different techniques, there are a lot of books,
A
like
whole
books
bunch of books.
associated with, yes, with kink, and then consent, with consensual non-monogamy, with jealousy associated with
Hmm.
consensual non-monogamy. There are
Hmm.
lots of books, and then lots of workshops that I've attended that were they the presenters speak about the legalities associated with being in the kink or being
Hmm.
involved in the kink lifestyle.
Okay.
Because in some states it's illegal.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
For,
Like you
really?
can't consent to be assaulted.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So we have to know those types of things. We have to know about medical professionals who are kink friendly so that when people have injuries, they're not too embarrassed to go and seek medical attention.
Hmm.
Like
Oh,
one of
that's
the
important too.
examples that we were given in the class, someone had gotten an injury where the genitals got stuck in a zipper.
Oh, that's
Um,
unusual.
yes. And so it was challenging to find a provider who would deal with that. And so the person ended up having an
Ah.
infection. So,
Oh.
okay, so that's the kind of stuff that we have to. I saw your face.
Yeah, I get like I can imagine things easily, so
Yes. So things like that, that an ordinary mental health professional, they're not going to have a clue about what to do with that or who to refer someone to. Um, we encourage people, if you're in the kink lifestyle, be part of the community and have a lawyer, depending on the state that you're in, because there have been times when, you know, law enforcement was called
wow.
and they walk in and then they see someone tied up or obviously hit, and then they're confused about what they're supposed to do about that, and the person is
Like if
waving.
arrest them or join.
Right? That would be hilarious.
Erin,
But yeah,
you mentioned workshops, and I promise this will be my last question. If you were given the chance to, I mean, now, like, related to your current interests, what's pulling you lately? Like, if someone gives you the chance to give an offer, like the most personalized and tailored to your interest workshop, what could it be about?
it would be something related to consensual non-monogamy.
Mhm, mhm,
Definitely.
mhm.
I just, I don't believe in monogamy the way that it is applied in society. So my mind has been open, and coming in contact with as many people as I have who are a part of the lifestyle. I just have a lot more um, perspective in that, and it's fascinating to me. Um, I
I
think
think
the
we have.
kink world, like any workshops with that, I think those
Mm.
are those are fascinating as well.
I think we have a topic for our next chat, I mean, that phrase, like, I think the way monogamy works in society, I'm not like in agreements with that. I mean, it's like the hook to start like a whole conversation about it. So I'd love to talk about
Yes,
it in our next chat. So,
I'd love to.
but for
I'd love
today,
to.
I appreciate Erin, you sharing all this experience. It really takes a lot of time and learning to become a sexologist, but I don't know. I feel like it's like the most fun career you might be trained for. Like
Yes,
it's amazing. I didn't know like at all like all the things you need to do to actually become a sexologist. It's fascinating. So I appreciate you are in being here today to tell us about this amazing and necessary career. So you guys now know, and also don't forget that if you want to book a session, an assessment chat with Erin, you can use the link below on the video description and keep stay tuned. I'm sure we'll have lots of different topics to chat about with Erin. You'll also find the books below. So thanks, guys, for being here today, and we'll see you the next time. Thanks, Erin, again.
thank you, Geronimo. I've enjoyed this.
Bye bye.